So how do you build one of the biggest empires the world has ever seen? You're probably thinking of conquest, right? Epic battles, great armies. But the story of Charles V, man, it's something else. We're talking about a teenager who, through this absolutely wild series of coincidences and brilliant strategic marriages, ended up ruling a massive chunk of the world in the 16th century. And he barely had to lift a sword to get it.
I mean, just look at this map for a second. In the middle of the 1500s, every territory you see here, Spain, the Netherlands, Austria, a huge piece of Italy, and that's not even counting the incredibly wealthy colonies over in the Americas, all of it was under the control of one guy. This was the empire of Charles V. So, the big question is, how on earth did this happen? How did one kid born in the year 1500 hit the biggest dynastic jackpot in history? Well, it wasn't through some grand military campaign. It was more like a perfect storm of three key ingredients: a brand new kingdom forged in war, a truly genius marriage strategy, and a continent that was basically up for grabs.
All right, so the first piece of our puzzle starts in Spain. Because before Spain could become the heart of a global empire, it first had to become, well, Spain.
You have to understand, for hundreds of years, the Iberian Peninsula was a battleground. This whole process was called the Reconquista. It was this long, slow, grinding campaign by the Christian kingdoms in the north to push the Moorish rulers out of the south. And this struggle, which went on for centuries, created this really powerful, militant, unified Christian identity. And then everything comes to a head in one single, absolutely pivotal year, 1492. This is the year Spain goes from being just a regional player to a true global power. In this 1 year, you get this crazy convergence of world-changing events. First, Ferdinand and Isabella get married, which finally unites Spain into one kingdom. Then, they finish the Reconquista by taking Granada. And this is the big one, Queen Isabella agrees to fund this guy Christopher Columbus, which opens up the unimaginable wealth of the Americas. So suddenly, Spain has unity, a powerful military, and what's basically a fire hose of gold and silver. And boom, that's ingredient number one.
Now, for the second ingredient. So, while Spain is being forged in the fires of war, another powerful family, the Habsburgs over in Austria, they were playing a totally different game. The Habsburg strategy was both simple and absolutely brilliant. Their whole philosophy was, let others wage war. You, happy Austria, marry. Why spill blood and treasure on the battlefield when you can just inherit entire kingdoms? They were playing a long game of dynastic chess, and they were masters at it. And check this out, this family tree is basically the blueprint for their entire plan. And the architect behind it all was the Holy Roman Emperor Maximilian I. It all revolved around a few very, very carefully chosen marriages.
Okay, so follow me here, because this is where it gets good. Step 1, Maximilian of Austria marries Mary of Burgundy. And just like that, he snaps up the incredibly rich lands of the Netherlands. Smart move. Step 2, he arranges for their son, Philip, to marry Joanna, who just happens to be the daughter and heiress of Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain. And the child of that union, the kid who stands to inherit all of it? Yep, that's our guy, Charles.
But here's the thing. A grand strategy like this only works if the timing is right and the conditions are perfect. And that brings us to our third ingredient, a divided, fragmented Europe that was just full of power vacuums waiting to be filled. So around the year 1500, Europe is totally split. On one hand, you've got these emerging, powerful, centralized states like France and England, where the king is really starting to call all the shots. But then you look over at places like Italy and the German lands, and it's just chaos. A total patchwork of hundreds of tiny, independent cities and states all bickering with each other. They were vulnerable. And this is a really key thing to get. When we say the Germanies, we are not talking about the country of Germany that we know today. Not even close. It was this loose, messy collection of over 200 different states, all lumped together under the title of the Holy Roman Empire. And the emperor, well, he was elected. He didn't just inherit the title, which meant a rich and influential family like the Habsburgs could, grease the wheels to make sure they got it. Okay, so we've got our three ingredients, right? A super rich and powerful Spain, the Habsburgs' brilliant marriage game, and a divided Europe just waiting for a strong leader. So now, let's see how it all comes together in the person of one very, very lucky young man.
And there he is, Charles, the baby born in Ghent in 1500. And through a truly unbelievable string of untimely deaths in his family, bad luck for them, great luck for him, he ends up as the sole heir to, well, everything.
I mean, you just can't overstate the sheer scale of what he inherited. By the time he was just 19 years old, he was King of Spain and its American Empire, Lord of the wealthy Netherlands, Archduke of Austria, King of Naples and Sicily. I mean, the list just goes on and on. And then, for the grand finale in 1519, he gets elected Holy Roman Emperor, the whole shebang.
Which brings us right back to the map where we started. You take the Spanish kingdom, you add the Burgundian inheritance, you throw in the Austrian lands, and you pour in all that gold and silver from the New World. All of it, combined under one ruler, created a European superpower unlike anything anyone had ever seen before.
But inheriting an empire is one thing. Actually holding it all together, that's another story. And his brand new empire was tested almost immediately. Charles had to travel to Germany for his first big imperial assembly. And the most pressing issue on the agenda wasn't consolidating his power or fighting a war. Nope, it was figuring out what to do with a troublemaking university professor by the name of Martin Luther.
And that leaves us with this final thought. Here's Charles V, the ruler of a global empire, arguably the most powerful man in the world. What could possibly threaten him? Well, as it turns out, it wasn't a rival king or a foreign army. It was an idea. An idea that would ignite a religious revolution, tear his empire apart, and define not just his reign, but the future of Europe itself.